Beautiful, beautiful. Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here.
It's great, man.
And I'm smiling because that is a sound that works for me.
That's beautiful. Really great. That Strat sounds mega.
It's killer, isn't it? For viewers who don't know, this is American vintage 59 Strat that I picked up used off a very nice man. Bought it secondhand because it was well battered and I thought that was a good sign.
American vintage 59. It's not a vintage 59 Strat. That's the American vintage is the
series, yeah, which they stopped doing last year.
Right.
Anyway, there's more about that in my Strat vlog, pickups vlog, if I ever get around to it. But I'm really liking it. It sounds much more Stratty than Blue at the moment.
Sounds mega.
It's cool. Right, so this is interesting. Fulltone's OCD has got to be one of the
most successful overdrive pedals of all time.
Most successful, most well-loved.
Yeah.
Extremely high integrity in terms of unique circuit.
Yes.
Been around forever, works across a whole bunch of things, and just is a really, really, really fantastic all-round overdrive pedal. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got mates that use them in anything from blues to rock to post-rock to all kinds of... Because it's just...
Can I just... with you playing, I'm going to show you a quick demonstration of why it is so. Because this is the V1, so you just play this for me. The amps we're using today, by the way, we have Marshall and a Fender.
50-watt Plexi reissue, a 1987 X and a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe.
What he said. Okay, so both together sounds like this. Great. Right. So this is the V1.7.
We'll get into that in a minute.
All right. But check this out. So you hear the term usable across its entire gain range. That's what that means. It's like with the drive off, it's almost completely clean. As a matter of fact, we've done a show where we use an OCD as a clean boost.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic because it gives you that bit of a mid push. However, the when you crank the gain up, it doesn't get to a point where it sounds really good and then it just goes mushy. There's a usable gain through its entire range.
Well, I think we should do that with some humbuckers, Daniel.
Okay. Just wonderful.
Right across the board.
Right across the board.
I don't know
so
quite
good.
what the microphone's going to be hearing on the cabinet. Part of me was wanting to just give a bit more of the high treble channel for the Les Paul, just so there was a bit more. But I don't want to mess about with it because we've kind of set it up.
Sure.
For anyone who doesn't know, the high treble channel on a Plexi style Marshall can be super, super, super horribly aggressive, depending on what bright cap. If it's the original standard version bright cap on that input, then it can be really blooming awful. Actually, seeing as I'm talking about it, just play the amp for a sec, can you, Dan?
Yep. Just the Marshall?
Yeah. It's quite...
It's like, as soon as it's on, it's too much.
Yeah. Anyway, that's another story. But it is sounding pretty good with everything, the way we've got it dialed, along with the Hot Rod Deluxe there. Okay, so you just heard the OCD, and to put some explanation on that, I don't even know when the OCD came out. It was more than 10 years ago.
Right.
Which is, eons in pedal world. It's been wildly successful all through that, and there's quite a bit of confusion about version 1, whatever. So you'll hear people saying, I've got a version 4. No, you haven't. You might have a version 1.4 because it went 1 and then they make little changes. And I don't know all the specific little changes up until 1.7, which is what this one is. This is the last of the version 1s. And the reason we're doing this video is because version 2, which probably was well over a year ago now. Anyway, version 2 makes some significant differences, and there is a custom shop one with some germanium loveliness in there as well. So it's really, what does 1.7 sound like compared to 2, and then where does the custom shop one fit into all of that?
Nice. And we're throwing the Fulltone DejáVibe, the mini DejáVibe, just for good measure. For good measure, and a memory man as well, because as we're about to find out, there's some buffer things going on in the version 2, which may or may not be relevant to our discussion. All right. What did we notice when we first turned them on and checked them out, Dan? Massive difference in volume range.
Yeah, so I'm just going to check one thing. Yeah, okay.
I love that. Hang on. That had a more set up with that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So, I suppose, depending on what type of pot is used,
yes,
and how the thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the same volume. And indeed, it's not the same volume. Here you go. Sorry, the darkness of that Marshall is really getting on my nerves, so I've just made it ever so slightly less dark. So at that level, you can hear the 1.7 sounds quieter. The 2 sounds like it's got a little bit more gain in it. But remember, these are relative positions of the pots, and that might not necessarily
Very
equate.
true. Yep.
So let's get them. What I suggest we do is dial them into the same volume and the same gain level and see what we can hear, just as an interesting start point. So I think we'll turn this one up a bit and turn the drive down a bit on that one. Okay, they sound very different.
They sound very different, don't they?
And to be fair, I printed out the sheet so that I don't have to remember everything.
You've been doing more research.
No, not research, just printing things out.
Okay.
Mike
Counts as
says,
research in my book.
Mike Fuller says, there's 2 very significant differences in the version 2.
Okay.
The first significant difference is it has a new input section.
Right.
A Class A configured discrete, which doesn't mean it's just careful about where it goes at night. 2N5457 JFET.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
It's just the input gain stage of the JFET transistors.
So that's new. And bearing in mind the conversation we had with Simon Jarrett recently of Kingsley Pedals, the input impedance has changed to 1 megohms.
Yes, from 300
from
and something.
330.
Yeah. And that will already, so that difference in brightness that you hear, that's what that is.
I'm so pleased because I thought I could perceive a difference in brightness.
Yeah.
So if that's part of it, then that's good because that's kind of what we were expecting. I'm also hearing a different mid-range.
Yep.
Like this one has a thicker
mid-range.
Fuller mid-range. This one seems a little scoopier. Mm-hmm. So again, would be interesting to get 3 of the same and see if they all sound the same. But it definitely does sound different.
Definitely.
Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it has a new buffered bypass mode. So you've got a little switch inside which we'll mess around with in a minute that on the version 2 this is, which means you can have an always on buffer basically.
Right.
So that, let's say, what would be the purpose of that? When you've got
if everything on your board was true bypass.
Yeah. So if you've got if without an always on buffer, when the overdrive's turned on, it's buffered, so it's pushing everything and everything sounds bright and nice. You turn the overdrive off and it just goes a bit flat. And
yes.
Conversely, you get the overdrive, or you get your clean sound to where you like it. All good. You turn the overdrive on with the buffer in it, and all of a sudden, some stuff after the overdrive now sounds
brighter and
harsher and all of that. So we'll turn it on in a minute and see if that has any effect on the Memory Man.
Okay.
Maybe. And then also whether the DejáVibe has any effect at the input, given that we're now dealing with a
different input impedance.
Impedance.
So with the 330k input impedance on the V1, that is quite low.
Yeah.
So if you think, like, for example, the bog standard, nothing bog standard about them, but a Boss overdrive pedal.
Yeah.
I think those guys really set the standard for the 1 megohm input impedance, and it matches what's going on an amplifier generally, 1 megohm input impedance. But it doesn't take a lot to drive that input impedance. The 330k, it takes, I mean, it's still relatively, it's not crazy low. It's not fuzz face low.
Yeah.
But it takes more to drive that input impedance, 3 times more than the 1 meg ohm.
And does that mean it's more sensitive off? That means it's more sensitive off your volume knob, doesn't it? With a low input impedance.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it depends on how the pedal's set up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It depends how you've got the gain and everything set up on the pedal. But you'll have, it's like that thing we did with Simon. It just changes that relationship.
Okay.
For better or worse, it's just different.
Well, what Fulltone say is that with the 1 meg input impedance, it makes the thing more responsive, changing from single coils to humbuckers.
Okay.
So let's have a muck about with
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Can you grab red for a second?
Yes, I can.
Because I think that's super familiar territory for you. And I'll get the 335, and then maybe we can just have a little listen to that.
Now, I'm going to predict something.
Go on then.
So,
Cross my palm with silver. I know that's what you do, isn't it?
So it should be the lower output impedance from this pickups should drive the input impedance of the V1 easier than that. So I'm assuming that we're going to hear a bigger difference with that guitar between the 2 pedals than this guitar.
Right.
That's my...
Gagne Centurion. So version 1.7, much chewier.
Yes.
Could you do me a favour and turn the tone up on the 1.7?
Yep, try and match the V2.
And see if that makes
But
any difference.
But you heard how this was closer in those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just making that point. I got one right. Okay, so this is V1.
It does have significantly chewier mid-range.
It really does.
Yeah,
it really
Try
does.
some neck pickup conkers. In fact, turn the gain round to 3 o'clock, can you? Sorry, I could do this myself.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'm too busy cradling my...
Here you go. V1. Gotta say, V1, baby.
Yeah, 1.7. I think I prefer the chewier mids in it.
Yeah.
Let's try some lower gain stuff before we have a look at the buffer situation. Yeah, let's stick in the high peak mode. High peak mode. I don't actually know what it means. High peak, increased distortion through the drive knob's range. More volume, slight increase in the mid-range between 1 to 2K for more of a British vibe, a la Vox and Marshall. And low peak, you get an incredible accuracy to the original sound of your guitar and amp, very little coloration. Excellent for clean boosting, cranked blackface or tweed style.
All right.
Let's give that a go then, my old Centurion. Goes you. This one is truer to the original EQ of the guitar.
Yes, it
to
is.
me.
Yeah.
And then this one has got that more
mids.
mid boosty
But that's why I've always loved it.
thing going on.
I've always loved the mid-range in it.
Really, really, really interesting. Okay, next thing, let's look at that input section and see what the DejáVibe does.
Okay.
I better go back to Stratland for this. Go on, get in there. So this is the Fulltone DejáVibe Mark II, the latest one, which sounds like this. Sounds a little bit cloaky through this one. And then for this one, you're getting the high end and the definition back a bit more, I thought. Were you hearing that?
Yeah, it's just the mid-range is so different that I'm just hearing I just hear the poke of the one, and it's just I just hear that working.
Yeah, well, it's not known as a mid pushed overdrive either, is it?
No, it's not. It's quite, but it has that. It's almost martially voiced thing. You know what I mean? Whereas the V2 just seems flatter. If V1 has more of that push in the mids, or or V2 is scooped.
Yeah.
But there's
quite a big EQ difference.
Yes, substantial.
Yeah. Let's look at the tone knob a sec.
Okay.
If you just play something for a minute. You can definitely get them closer.
Yeah, right.
By
pushing the tone up a bit.
Relative and down on the other one, and the drive down on the other one. Relative positions of the knobs. Interesting, really interesting. Okay, let's have a look at this buffer then, shall we?
Okay.
We're going to have to take it off to do that. No screwdriver required. How helpful is that?
There we go.
Nice. Right. So we'll set it kind of there. We kind of like it there, don't we? A bit of drive on it. Let's see. Just for the record, it's still in the signal chain because it's in G2 signal. And G2 has no effect on any of this.
No.
Just to make that point. So Gagne then. some serious. We haven't got the dB meter running today, but that would be frightening, I think, from where I'm sat. As expected, turn the DejáVibe on, and then the bypass switch starts making very little difference whatsoever.
Yep.
Why?
Because the output impedance of the DejáVibe is low, and that's buffering the signal forward from that point. So it's already receiving that low impedance signal.
Yeah, it answers an interesting question about do you need more than one buffer on your board? Maybe, depends where it is. Blah,
Sure.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing we need to work out is how much effect that buffer then has on something further down the line. So let's see if it makes any difference whatsoever to the memory man.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bearing in mind, even though the OCD version 2 light is lit, the pedal is inactive. It's turned off, right?
I like that save though. Hang on. It was. But again, if we turn the DejáVibe on and do the same thing.
So unbelievably interesting.
Yeah. So even just that one extra patch cable and the loading of the 1 foot switch.
Yeah.
You know, but don't forget though, the with the true bypass on, or the buffer off, I should say, the memory man is seeing the input impedance from the pickups from the guitar.
Yeah.
As soon as that goes on, it's no longer seeing that; it's seeing the impedance from the output of the buffer.
Yeah.
So that's the big deal.
So why is that useful? If you don't have as Dan just said, even in a fancy ass, beautifully clean signal path pedal switcher, there is still a significant difference. If you were running, phone on somewhere. If you were running a long string of true bypass pedals with no switcher, and you've got all that loading all the way through your, I don't know, chorus delay.
It's huge.
What's coming out of the end of that is pretty dull until you engage any kind of buffer. So, for example, you turn the OCD pedal on, then all your brightness comes back, right? But when you turn it off, it goes away. That buffer switched on is just about the best example of what a buffer does to your sound.
Yeah.
When people ask that, so
it's very interesting because you are very susceptible to that extra top end.
Well, because I have the luxury of having a system like this where everything is super clean and beautiful and lovely. I don't really want to add anything else to it at that point.
Yeah.
So if I add more buffering to stuff that comes further down the line, then the way I have everything else set, it's too bright for me.
Yeah.
So it's not a better or a worse thing. It's
the first time I heard this, I had an old fuzz pedal.
Yeah.
And I had my original memory man up on the wall there, and I was getting the best sound ever from the fuzz. It was just perfect. And I kicked the memory man on, and it just went harsh and horrible. I thought it was broken.
Yeah.
So I took it back to the store and said, I'm really sorry, it's adding this awful sound. Plugged it in, nothing wrong with it. what's going on? So I went back and found out that the fuzz had a really high output impedance, and as soon as that came on, it ended up being the buffer adding the top end.
Yeah.
So yeah. If you're interested in this stuff, go and watch the episode we did with Simon Jarrett.
Yeah.
We're talking about input and output impedances and stuff. But it's super interesting and makes a massive difference. And understanding that will help you structure the thing so that everything makes sense for the sound that you want.
Yeah, big time. It is a really useful addition.
Yeah.
Really
yeah,
useful
really
addition.
cool.
One extremely famous pedal that has an always-on buffer is the Klon Centaur.
Yeah, there you go.
And people love it for that very reason. Dan, who did the artwork on this pedal?
That would be Neil Finn. And and Sharon Finn. And Elroy Finn. And Liam Finn. Yeah!
Awesome. Right.
I remember their names. I can't remember Marshall 1957X. Is that right? No idea.
The thing
completely
is,
wrong.
It is really confusing with Marshalls because...
Are you giving me a pass?
It's really confusing with Marshalls because they sound like years, right? 1959.
Yeah.
The 100-watt Plexi has absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with the year 1959.
So why is it called 1959?
Just model numbers.
So they made 1,959 model Marshalls before they happened to hit the good one.
No. I think you'll find that's what it says in the Wikipedia entry. Right, we've got one last thing to do then, which is check out this germanium.
Yeah.
So the OCD is interesting. According to Mike Fuller, it was the first pedal to use MOSFETs as the clipping diodes.
Right.
Or as the clipping section.
Okay.
Let me check that because my circuit knowledge is not good, so I have to just check this. According to Mike, the OCD pedal is the only pedal that uses two MOSFETs configured as hard clipping to voltage reference instead of the usual way to ground.
Okay.
So the earliest OCDs used two MOSFETs and one germanium diode
Right.
to do the clipping.
Interesting.
It has an op-amp to do the amplification, and then it uses a clipping section to make the sound of the overdrive.
Yep.
Recently, I stumbled on a reasonably large stash of the right kind of germanium diodes.
Ooh.
Now, I'm not saying that there is a connection here at all, but the reason that everyone bangs on about the Klon so much is because it has a particular type of germanium clipping diode. I'm not saying that it's the same thing or the same
Not
thing.
saying that.
I'm just
Categorically not saying that.
categorically not saying that. What I am saying is the reason that a lot of people like the Klon, because it has this mythical germanium clipping diode. Anyway, I found a large stash of the right kind of germanium diode, so I ponied up and bought all of them. I decided to do a run of the Ultimate OCD, a custom shop offering with a few of the circuit tweaks using two MOSFETs and two germanium diodes. So that's it.
Okay.
So the clipping is different. Which one should we compare it to?
I'd like to compare it to V1, please.
V1.7, yeah.
Yeah.
You unfortunately in this scenario today, you are preferring this.
I am indeed.
I think I am actually.
Yep.
And that could be down to the amps we're using.
Could be.
Could be anything.
It could be.
Right.
Could just be that
You prefer it.
I prefer it.
Yeah. I'm trying to be diplomatic.
I understand. No, look, I am.
Australian.
I'm very Australian. There's a marked difference in tonally now, and I haven't heard that in the different versions of the V1s.
Yeah, I can't really remember because that was the first one I really spent a lot of time with.
Right. Yeah, but anyway, yes. Some people might prefer the less mids.
Yeah. There's no right, is there?
Well, except for.
Right. I think we better compare it to the version 2,
Okay.
because I think this one's just got that throaty mid-range thing you're not going to be able to get away from.
Okay.
Because this one sounds more like this one to me.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Yep. I think I like this one for the lower gain.
I might set this guitar up.
Stacked, that sounded amazing.
Yeah, really killer.
Wow. There's I don't know, there's almost a softness about the germanium one,
Yeah.
which kind of makes sense.
It's subtle, isn't it? Because, you know, the differences in those three overdrives is significant.
Yeah.
And you'd be hard to push to say one is better or one is worse and what do you prefer and all the rest of it. And who's to say that, you know, without in any company, when you're using things like hand-selected germanium diodes, blah, 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 who's to say that
absolutely.
they all sound the same?
Yeah,
So
and everything has to be tuned and stuff. So, yeah, of course.
it does sit in a unique place, though, doesn't it? I think that kind of... And can you run them at high voltage?
Yes, you can. You can run them between 9 and 18 volts.
Okay, so even more... I mean, it's a really dynamic overdrive pedal anyway.
Yeah.
Even at 9. So at 18, it's like loads more.
Let's just do it on the V2.
Yep.
All right, so here you go. It's V2 on 9 volts.
Right. When we did the voltage show, I think I'm just hearing a slightly less obvious version of our conclusion there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a bit more headroom, but a bit less clipping.
Yeah, a bit more chewier in the 9-volt setting.
Yeah,
Tiny
exactly.
bit.
Yeah.
And we could do that all day with different
Yeah.
guitars and more overdrive and all the rest of it.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll handle 18, but sounds great at 9.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not a kind of, if you think about
Dramatic.
like a tube screamer, how compressed that can be and how thinning that can be if used in a certain environment. The OCD pretty much never does that, does it? Not in my experience anyway.
No.
So
There you go. That was really, really interesting.
yeah, splitting hairs.
Large hairs.
Yeah. Fat
Like a
hairs.
meal. You get a meal out of that hair.
Navel gazing, cork sniffing, all of those things. If you don't like navel gazing, cork sniffing, hair splitting, probably not the channel for you.
Okay.
And I suppose this is why it exists in the first place. What are the objections? Wouldn't notice it in a mix? You'd never notice that in a mix. Your audience don't care.
I love that one.
What else? They all sound the same. What else?
It's all in my
It's all in your
Pod
mind.
HD.
So if you care, we hope that was interesting. If you don't, good for you.
Brilliant. There you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. A massive thank you to everyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed some of our, what have I got? You've got Help Thor Toads.
Yep.
I've got That Shaped Owl.
Yep.
And so it's our anagram series t-shirts. But there's loads of stuff in there. We've got journals and cups and
Strings.
All strings.
Yeah.
Fancy that. Also, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon, guys. Thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you. And I hope that didn't sound flippant because I'm genuinely grateful. Our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is
Anderson's Music of Guildford in Surrey, where you can buy Fulltone stuff and electro-harmonic stuff.
yes, and in Australia,
Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland, where I hope you can do the same.
yes, I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, please subscribe and click the little notification bell so that you will get notified anytime a new pedal show video gets put up.
Nice.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Cheerio.
Bye.